Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at two stories that are pretty different, but both kind of touch on how we present ourselves to the world.
And I think you're right about that connection. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to look at how image and perception play out both online and in real life, which is something that I think we're all grappling with more and more these days.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so first up, we've got this celebrity breakup that's been all over social media. It involves Remy Ma and Papoose. Obviously, huge names in hip hop, been together forever. And it seemed like they had this rock solid relationship.
Yeah, they were like hip hop royalty almost. You know, that power couple that everyone admired. But then things just completely imploded.
Yeah, so let's start from the beginning. Papoose accused Remy of cheating with a guy named Easy. And initially, it seemed like a pretty standard celebrity breakup, accusations flying back and forth.
Right, typical he said, she said kind of thing.
Exactly. But then things took a really weird turn. Another rapper called Remy out during a battle rap, basically accusing her of cheating on Papoose. And suddenly, Remy went from being the wrong party to being on the defensive.
Yeah, that's when everything changed. Suddenly there was this public pressure on Remy to respond. And she did in a way that no one expected.
Oh yeah, she did not hold back at all. She
Right.
went on Instagram and just unloaded on Papoose. And this woman he was supposedly seeing, Claressa Shields, who's a world champion boxer.
I mean, it's one thing to air your dirty laundry online, but to involve someone else like that, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it was a bold move. So she starts posting all these screenshots of texts between Papoose and Claressa, like really personal conversations. And in the captions, she's just going off on both of them, calling Papoose a liar and a manipulator, and just basically dragging Claressa through the mud.
What I found really interesting was how she presented those texts. It was like she was trying to control the narrative, carefully choosing snippets that made Papoose look bad and made Claressa look like the desperate one.
Oh, totally. Like in one text, Claressa is telling Papoose that she's not happy, but she'll stop contacting him because she doesn't want to stress him out. And Remy's caption is all like, see, he's playing her? Like she's trying to make Claressa look foolish.
It's classic triangulation,
Yeah.
right? You pit two people against each other and then present yourself as the victim. It's a pretty common tactic in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, and Remy didn't stop there. She also started throwing shade at Papooses' financial situation, calling him a taker, not a giver, and basically implying that he's broke.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like Papoose, who's built his whole image on being this successful provider.
Right. It was like she was trying to undermine his whole persona. And of course, Papoose wasn't just going to sit there and take it.
Oh no, he fired back with a vengeance.
So he goes on Instagram too and calls Remy a narcissist, accuses her of abandoning their daughter on Christmas, and he even admits to knocking out Easy, the guy Remy was supposedly cheating with.
But his explanation for that was pretty interesting. He claimed it wasn't just about the affair, it was because Easy had pretended to be cool with him before going behind his back.
Yeah, it was all about respect and loyalty, which plays into this whole image thing we were talking about. Like he had to defend his honor, especially in the world of hip hop, where those things are so important.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
all about maintaining that tough guy persona.
But then Remy comes back swinging. She denies abandoning their daughter and claims Papoose has a gambling problem. And then she drops another bombshell. She accuses him of being jealous of her success and trying to sabotage her career.
Wow, things just kept escalating. It was like they were trying to one-up each other with each post.
Yeah, and then she throws out this really serious accusation. She says that Papoose hit her in their garage and that the construction workers who were there witnessed it and called the cops.
Okay, so now we're moving into really dangerous territory. Domestic violence is a very serious issue, and it's not something to be taken lightly.
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
important to remember that these are just allegations. We don't know the full story, and it's not our place to judge.
Right. But it definitely adds another layer of complexity to this whole saga.
And just when you think it can't get any crazier, Remy does something totally unexpected. She reveals that she and Claressa were actually friendly before all this drama went down.
Wait, really? I thought they hated each other.
Nope. Remy posts all these screenshots of Claressa wishing her a happy new year and even asking for advice on how to look good.
Yeah.
It was like she was trying to expose Claressa as being two-faced and manipulative.
Okay, so now I'm completely lost. What was Claressa's angle in all of this?
I know, right? It's hard to say for sure. Maybe she was genuinely friends with Remy, or maybe she was trying to get close to her to get to Papoose. Who knows?
Like a real-life soap opera.
It really is. So anyway, Claressa denies everything. She calls Remy a bitter, mad clown and accuses her of faking the texts. And then get this, she challenges Remy to a fight.
A fight, like in the boxing ring?
Yep, on February 2nd. It was like she was trying to take their online beef to the next level.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Remy did not accept that challenge, did she?
Nope. Smart move considering Claressa is a world champion boxer.
Yeah, that would not have ended well.
So that's kind of where things stand right now. But the rumors are still flying. Some people are saying that Papoose actually proposed to Claressa, and Easy, the guy Remy was supposedly seeing, is apparently already with other women.
So basically everyone's trying to move on, but the drama just keeps following them.
Exactly. It's like they're all caught in this web of social media and public perception, and it just keeps getting messier and messier.
And it makes you wonder how much of this is real and how much of it is just for show, you know? Are they really this messy, or are they playing up for the cameras?
It's a good question, and it's something we're going to see play out even more as this whole saga continues to unfold.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
For sure. But now let's shift gears completely and talk about something completely different. A true crime case out of South Korea that's raising a lot of questions about isolation obsession and the dark side of human curiosity.
This case is disturbing on so many levels, and it really makes you think about the things people are capable of.
So before the break, we were talking about Tong Yoo-jung and this murder case in South Korea where she killed her English tutor, and her only explanation was that she wanted to know what murder felt like.
Yeah, and remember, the police found that her phone was completely empty. No contacts, no messages, nothing. It was like she existed in a digital void.
Right, and that's where this idea of hikikomori comes in. It's this phenomenon in Japan and South Korea where people just completely withdraw from society. They become recluses and they isolate themselves from the outside world.
It's a really complex issue, and there are a lot of factors that contribute to it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something we need to talk about more, especially in light of this case.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dig into Yoo Jung's background a little bit and see if we can understand her better. She was raised by her grandfather, Grandpa Jung, after her parents basically abandoned her when she was young.
Okay, so right off the bat, we see this pattern of isolation starting early in her life. Being separated from her parents at such a young age could have had a huge impact on her development.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And it seems like that isolation continued throughout her school years. Her classmates described her as invisible. She never really spoke to anyone and just kind of drifted through school without making any real connections.
That's a really troubling sign.
Yeah.
Especially for someone in their teens.
Yeah.
You know, those are the years when social interaction is so important for developing a sense of self and belonging.
Right. And after high school, she stayed home and claimed to be studying for an exam to become a government official. But the thing is, she wasn't even eligible to take that exam because she didn't have the required English skills.
So basically she was living a lie,
Yeah.
and her grandfather, who was supporting her, had no idea.
Yeah, he thought she was diligently studying and working towards a future. But in reality, she was just trapped in this cycle of isolation.
And it's interesting how that ties back to the murder. She chose to kill an English tutor, someone who represented the very thing she lacked, the thing that was holding her back.
Right. It's like she was lashing out at a symbol of her own failures. And then there's the fact that she applied for a job as a golf caddy but refused to speak during the interview.
Why would she even bother applying if she wasn't going to talk?
I know, right? It's almost like she was setting herself up for failure. And when she was rejected, she called the recruiter back and cursed them out, demanding to know why she wasn't hired.
That's so strange. It's like this sudden burst of anger from someone who's usually so quiet and withdrawn.
It's like all this rage and frustration was building up inside her, and she had no healthy outlet for it.
It's really sad. And it makes you wonder if things could have been different if she'd gotten help.
Yeah, what if someone had noticed the signs and intervened? You know, maybe she could have found a way to connect with the world and break free from this cycle of isolation.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And instead, her isolation just festered and grew darker.
And that's where her obsession with true crime comes in. The police found that she had watched tons of documentaries and movies about murder and serial killers.
Which in itself isn't necessarily a red flag. I mean, a lot of people are fascinated by true crime.
Right, but in Yoo Jung's case, it seemed like her interest went beyond just morbid curiosity. It was like she was studying these cases, learning from them.
It's chilling to think about, especially knowing that she eventually went on to commit murder herself.
And there's this one detail that's really unsettling. She had watched this South Korean thriller called Helpless multiple times. It's a movie about a woman who steals other people's identities and may be a killer.
Wait a minute. Didn't Yoo Jung tell the police that she was hired to dispose of the body in exchange for the victim's identity?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
She took inspiration from the movie and used it to create this elaborate fantasy world.
It's really disturbing. It shows how easily the lines between fiction and reality can blur, especially for someone who's already so isolated and detached from the real world.
And you have to wonder, Did watching those movies and documentaries desensitize her to violence? Did it make it easier for her to cross that line?
It's definitely a possibility. And it raises some really important questions about the impact of violent media on our psyches.
Especially for people who might be vulnerable or struggling with mental health issues.
Exactly. We need to be having these conversations about media literacy and critical thinking, helping people understand the difference between fiction and reality and the potential consequences of blurring those lines.
Absolutely. Okay, so going back to the case, Yu Zhang's grandfather, Grandpa Zhang, is eventually contacted by the police, and he's completely devastated by the news. He rushes to the police station and pleads with Yu Zhang to confess.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine the guilt and heartbreak he must have felt? I mean, he raised her as his own, and now she's committed this horrific crime.
It's just a terrible situation for everyone involved, and Yu Zhang eventually does confess. She tells the police that she just wanted to experience murder.
That's so chilling. It's like she's completely devoid of empathy or remorse.
Yeah, and later she says that she wasn't in her right mind, and she apologizes to the victim's family. But it's hard to know if she's being sincere or if she's just trying to manipulate the situation.
Right. It's impossible to get inside her head and truly understand her motivations.
So to assess her mental state, they give her a psychopathy test. And on the first evaluation, she scores 15 out of 40, which is higher than average, but still below the threshold for psychopathy.
Okay, so that's interesting. But then what happened?
Well, on her second evaluation, her score jumped to 28, which puts her in the same range as some of the most notorious serial killers in history.
Wow, that's a huge increase. What do you think caused that?
It's hard to say for sure, but some experts believe that being in prison surrounded by other criminals might have had a negative impact on her psyche.
It's possible. Prison environments can be really toxic, and they can definitely exacerbate existing mental health issues.
And the really scary thing is that criminal psychology experts believe that if she hadn't been caught, she probably would have killed again.
That's a terrifying thought. And it just underscores the importance of taking mental health seriously and addressing these issues before they escalate into violence.
Absolutely. And it's also a reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. We tend to think of murderers as these monstrous figures, but in reality, they can be anyone.
Right. They can be our neighbors, our classmates, our coworkers. We need to be aware of that, and we need to be vigilant.
And we need to be compassionate.
Yeah.
Mental illness is a real thing, and it's something that we need to treat with empathy and understanding.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground with this case. It's definitely a heavy one, and it's left me with a lot to think about.
Yeah, me too. But I think it's important that we talk about these difficult topics. We can't just shy away from them.
I agree. And I think it's important to remember that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. There are people out there working to make a difference and to prevent these kinds of tragedies from happening.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's end this deep dive on a slightly lighter note. Remember that crazy celebrity breakup we were talking about? Remy Ma Papoose and Claressa Shields? Well, there's been a pretty shocking development in that story.
Oh, really? I'm all ears. What happened?
Well, Remy posted a picture on Instagram a few days ago, and it's a picture of her with Claressa Shields.
Wait a minute. I thought they were mortal enemies. What's going on?
I know, right? It's a total shocker. Apparently, they've decided to squash the beef. The caption on the photo just said, "Squashing the beef."
Wow, that's a major plot twist.
Yeah.
So after all that public feuding and drama, they're just friends now.
It seems that way. And there are rumors that Papoose and Claressa have actually broken up, so maybe Remy and Claressa bonded over their shared experience with him.
That would make sense. They both went through this really public and humiliating ordeal.
Yeah.
Maybe they realized that they had more in common than they thought.
Yeah, and maybe they're both just ready to move on from the drama.
It's definitely a possibility. And it's kind of a nice reminder that people can change and relationships can evolve, even after the most bitter of feuds.
It's a good point. And it's a good note to end on, I think. We've talked about some really dark and disturbing things today. But it's important to remember that there's always hope for healing and forgiveness.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also a reminder that we should never judge people based on what we see on social media. There's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay connected. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about Tung Yu-jung and just how deeply her crime impacted everyone involved. But now I think it's time to revisit that celebrity breakup we were talking about earlier. Remy Ma Papoose and Claressa Shields. Remember all those rumors about a proposal and moving on? Well, things have gotten even more complicated.
Oh, really?
I'm intrigued.
Fill me in. What happened?
Okay, so are you ready for this? A few days ago, Remy posted a picture on Instagram that no one saw coming. It's a picture of her with Claressa Shields.
Hold on, I'm trying to process this. Were they like sworn enemies publicly fighting over Papoose? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a total shocker. Apparently, they've decided to put the past behind them. The caption on the photo just said, "Squashing the beef."
Wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
So after all that drama, all those accusations, they're just friends now.
That's what it looks like. And there are rumors that Papoose and Claressa have actually broken up. So maybe Remy and Claressa kind of bonded over their shared experience with him, you know? Maybe they realized they were both victims in all of this.
That's an interesting thought. It's like they were so focused on fighting each other that they didn't realize they had a common enemy.
Right. And maybe this whole public feud was just a way for them to process their hurt and anger, you know? Sometimes people lash out when they're feeling betrayed and vulnerable.
That makes sense. It's like they were projecting their pain onto each other instead of dealing with the real issue, which was Papoose' behavior.
Exactly. And now it seems like they're both choosing to move on in a more positive direction, you know, focusing on their own lives and supporting each other.
It's definitely a more mature approach, and it sends a powerful message about female empowerment and solidarity.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder that we should never judge people based on what we see on social media, you know? There's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Absolutely. And it's also a reminder that people are capable of change and growth, you know, even after the most bitter of feuds.
Right. So maybe there's hope for Papoose too. Who knows?
Maybe. Only time will tell. But I think we've learned a lot today about the complexities of relationships and the power of forgiveness.
Definitely. And we've also seen how easily we can be deceived by appearances, you know, both online and in real life.
That's a really important point. We need to be critical thinkers.
Yeah.
And we need to question everything we see and hear, especially when it comes to social media.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think it's time to wrap things up. It's been quite a journey today. We've explored the dark side of human nature with the Tong Yujong case. We've delved into the messy world of celebrity relationships. And we've talked about the importance of forgiveness and second chances.
It's been a roller coaster of emotions for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's been a valuable conversation.
I agree. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we need to be more mindful of the way we connect with each other, you know, both online and in person.
I think that's a great way to put it. We need to be more present, more empathetic, and more understanding. Because you never know what someone else is going through.
So true. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.